I've onboarded maybe 15 designers over the last 7 years to their first Salesforce project. The conversation goes the same way every single time. They open the Lightning record page, they look at the sidebar, they look at the related list, they ask, where are the design tokens? And then I tell them, no, you can't swap out your brand font access across the entire org. And they stare at me like I just told them the sky was purple. That look, that's the most important part of their entire engagement, because that will determine whether or not the engagement goes well or if it's going to be a frustrating nightmare for the next 6 months. Think about the difference between an architect and an interior designer. An architect decides where the walls go, where the plumbing runs, and the load-bearing beams sit. They're building the structure. An interior designer walks into a building that already exists. The walls are up, the plumbing works, the electrical is wired, and their job is to make the space functional, beautiful, and usable for the people who live within it. When you take on a Salesforce project, you're the interior designer. The platform is the building. Salesforce decides where the walls will go. They decide the navigation structure, the record page layout regions, the component library, the spacing, the type scale. That's SLDS, the Salesforce Lightning Design System. It covers almost everything that's visible to the end user. You're not designing those components, you're rearranging them. You decide which components appear, which ones don't, which data surfaces to the end user. An interior designer can make a cramped apartment feel spacious or a massive loft feel intimate. You can do extraordinary things within Salesforce constraints, but you can't knock down the load-bearing walls. You can't rip out the plumbing, and you can't reroute things just because you want the kitchen on the other side. Some things are fixed, and if you fight some of the fixed things, you're going to burn the budget, you're going to frustrate the developers, and deliver something fragile. When I was brought in to redesign the Service Cloud for Cisco, the senior support analyst said something to me that I'll never forget. He described his workspace as an alien cockpit. He said, it's like someone handed me an airplane cockpit and told me to fly it, but I've never seen any of these instruments before. He had 42 fields on a single account record page, 3 sidebar panels open at the same time, navigation that shifted depending on which Lightning app he had launched, no visual hierarchy, no spatial logic that made any sense to human beings sitting down at that screen for the very first time. But it wasn't a broken org. The data model was fine. All the objects were configured correctly. Every field on that page existed because someone at some point had a legitimate reason to put it there. The problem wasn't the data. The problem was that nobody had ever thought about the person operating it. Nobody asked, what does this analyst actually need to see for the first 3 seconds of an open record? I've watched designers get this wrong in the opposite direction too. iRobot, we brought on a contract designer from a digital agency. She had a great profile, strong visual skills, had done beautiful work for consumer brands. She'd spent 2 weeks producing a pixel-perfect mock-up of a redesigned contact record page. Custom typography, a complete reimagined layout with sections that don't exist in the Lightning app builder. Micro interactions on field hover states, it looked like a dribble shot. And it was completely unbuildable without a full custom Lightning web component replacing the entire record page. 2 weeks of design work, none of it implemented through configuration. All of it would have required custom development that the client had no time for or budget for. But it wasn't her fault. Nobody had told her the rules. She didn't realize that Salesforce is a constrained environment, and that your job as a designer is to rearrange those elements to make it easier for the end user to use. I want to slow down for a second because it matters. SLDS is not a component library that Salesforce ships just because they like design systems. It exists because Salesforce has to render a consistent, accessible, responsive UI across hundreds of thousands of orgs. Every one of these orgs has different objects, different fields, different page layouts, different user permissions. SLDS is just trying to make that possible at scale. The constraints aren't arbitrary, they're structural. They're the reason why a Salesforce org can handle 200 concurrent users in a Service Cloud console and still render predictably. So when you arrive on a Salesforce project as a designer, your value is understanding what the platform gives you and using the inventory brilliantly. 90% of Fortune 500 companies run on Salesforce. Almost all of them have a UX problem, and almost none of them have a blank canvas to work from. They need someone who knows the difference between what can be configured, what can be themed, and what requires custom code. That spectrum, configuration to custom, is what the rest of this week is going to be about.